Okay, you have got to understand how to solve for x. If you don't understand it, you're going to have a hard time getting through this class. And next semester is going to be a struggle. And then geometry is going to be a struggle. So let's just go ahead and do this now. So I'm just going to put some stuff down. You might want to copy this down. The first thing you need to do, if you have parentheses with a number out here, you need to distribute. You need to do distributive property. We don't have any distributive property. Okay. After you do distributive property, you combine like terms. Okay? After you combine like terms, you need to separate your numbers and your letters by getting them all on one side. So I need to put my numbers on one side and I need to put my letters on the other. And then after I've done that, most of the time, I am going to divide by the number next to the letter, or I could have a fraction where I multiply bottom number, and then I go ahead and divide. Okay, so those are your basic steps. Okay, so I like to put a line at the equal sign. First thing I tell you to do is get rid of the loner. So I'm going to subtract 5 to both sides. That becomes 0, leaving me 10c, and that equals 10. And now I divide by the number next to the letter. For some reason, you guys, some of you don't understand, the number next to the letter has to go on the bottom of the fraction. It's not always going to be a nice fraction. So 10 over 10 is 1. 1c and c are the same thing. C equals 1. And we're going to do faster on this. And I'm going to start skipping steps because you have to understand this. 10x equals negative 20. The number next to the letter goes on the bottom of my fraction. X equals negative 2. Now, if you have a question on this, you come back after school and ask me. You have to invest your time to learn this stuff if you didn't learn it. Again, you get rid of the loner first. Notice how I put a box around the sign and the number. The sign to the left of the number does not tell you to add or subtract. It tells you if the number is positive or negative. This number is negative. In order to cancel it out on this side, I have to add 7, so I have to add 7 to both sides. 7's cancel. 4x equals 19. Then I put the number next to the letter on the bottom. X equals 19 over 4. Just leave it 19 over 4. 19 over 4 is a fine answer. Okay? Okay, so here we go. Oh my goodness. Rewrite the equation so that y is a function of x. Now, on these recordings, I'm just going to go through a few. In class, we'll go through more. I'm just going to go through a few, and then I'm going to stop it. So if you have any questions and you're watching the recording, please come in. So make y a function of x. What does that mean? That means get y by itself. I want y all by itself. Okay? Because in order to graph, it has to be in slope-intercept form. That should sound familiar to all of you, slope-intercept form. That means y has to be by itself. So, please listen. Please listen. I take this 6x and I have to put it over here. It has to be in front of your constant. You cannot have 20 minus 6x. 6x, that's going to be your slope. So if it's positive over here, what does it become over here? Okay, so what I should do is negative 6x, negative 6x. This cancels. 2y equals negative 6x plus 20. Your x has to be first. But look, watch this. Watch this. We're all pretty smart in here, aren't we? Can you understand if it's negative 3x over here on the left, it's going to be positive 3x on the right? And then bring your plus 9 down. And then we have our equal sign and our 9y. Can't we just do that? Do we really have to make that 0 like that? No. Now, is the y all by itself? No, there's a 2 there. How do I get rid of the 2? Divide. Now, this is where it's different. I have to divide this by 2. I have to divide this by 2, and I have to divide this by 2. Okay, so now because I have to isolate this y, and we're putting it in slope-intercept form, I have to divide everything. So this cancels, and then I have to reduce these. A negative over positive is a negative. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Keep your x. 2 goes into 20 10 times. Okay, now I'm just going to scan through. All right, so now for the recording, that's the only one we're doing for the recording. We'll come back and do more for the class, but I just want to use the recording to show you how to do it. And if you have questions, come in. Now, this, solving for a variable in a formula, this gets nasty. Remember, when you solve for a variable, you isolate. That means you get the variable by itself. So, solve I equals PRT for t. What do I have to solve for, kids? So that means I have to get t all by itself. So what's going on between the p and the r and the t? What is this? Multiplication. How do you undo multiplication? So I'm going to divide both sides by PR. Your p and your r canceled. I over PR equals t. So treat it just like numbers. Let's look at number 3. P equals 3a minus 2b plus 4c, and we're going to solve for a. So now, I look here, 2b and 4c. These are just like loners. I know they have numbers, but they're just like loners. How? I need to move, right? I need to move the negative 2b and the positive 4c. Isn't that right? Don't I need to move those? See, if I want to get the a by itself, I have to move these. Whenever you see a plus or minus sign, you got to get rid of the stuff on the right of the plus or minus. So what's on the right of that minus? 2b. That's a negative 2b, right? How do I get rid of negative 2b? I add 2b to both sides. I'm going to rewrite this because of this 4a. 3a minus 2b plus 4c. So I have to move this 2b, and I have to move this plus 4c. So I'm going to add 2b to both sides. This cancels. Can I add 1p to 2b? No, they don't have the same letter. You can only combine if the letters are the same. P plus 2b equals 3a plus 4c. Is my a all by itself? I still have to get rid of this 4c. So I subtract 4c to both sides. Is there anything over on the left that I can combine the 4c, the negative 4c with? No, because I can only combine it with other c's. P plus 2b minus 4c equals, these cancel, 3a. Holy cow. Now what do I have to do? Yeah, this is multiplication. I have to divide both sides by 3. The 3's cancel. So my answer, P plus 2b minus 4c over 3 equals a. Now, let me ask you something. How come I didn't divide every single thing by c like I did when I was isolating the y? When you have formulas and you have plus or minus signs on top, you just divide the bottom. However, here, I'm trying to put this in slope-intercept form. I'm going to graph this. So even though there's a plus sign in between here, I treat these separate because this is my slope and this is my y-intercept. Okay? This is different. So just what you need to know is, if you're isolating the y, you have to divide everything. If you're just trying to isolate a variable for a formula, you just put that number underneath and you leave it just like this right here. Okay? Wow. That's a lot of steps, ain't it? One last thing I'm going to show you, then I'm going to cut the recording off and we'll still continue this lesson. We have to solve for b, right? Now, what do you get rid of first? Your fraction. Always get rid of your fraction first. How do I get rid of that? No, that's a lie. That's a lie. There, I just lied to you. I promise you, kids, I will always tell you the truth unless I'm lying. Doesn't that make sense? I want to get rid of the fraction first. Now, if I had this, a equals 1/2 b plus h, here I would always get rid of this, the loner first, okay? But I don't have a loner here. There's no plus sign here, is there? So I get rid of the fraction. How do I do that? I multiply both sides by the bottom number. This cancels. 2a equals 1bh. Do I need the 1 there? No. How do I get rid of the h? Divide both sides by h, one person. The h's cancel. 2a over h equals b. I don't need 1b. Okay. When you're watching this, if you need to pause, go ahead and pause. Look, D1, D2, you're going to solve for D1. You're going to get the t by itself, so you're going to divide by r. All right. Use the formula I equals PRT, where I is the simple interest on an investment for P dollars at an interest rate R for 10 years. Do not solve the equation for R. Let's do this. Let's find out what our I is, what our P is, what our R is, what our T is. Whatever letter we don't have a number for, that's what we're going to fill in and solve for. So find the interest rate. Am I going to have an R, kids? Am I going to have an R? No, it says find it. On an investment of $1,500. An investment of P dollars. P is your investment. That's what you're starting out with. So how much is my P? 1,500. What is my interest? 180. It says earned $180 in interest. For 2 years, what's 2 years? That's my time. So I'm just going to leave this R. That just stays R. So now I just fill it in. My I goes right here. That's 180. Equals my P is 1,500 times R times 2. So now you just solve this. 2 times, so I have 180, equals 2 times 1,500 is 3,000 R. Then I solve for R, dividing both sides by 3,000. So in your calculadoras, 180 divided by 3,000, what is it? The DSD button or the F to D? Did you get 0.06? It's your interest rate, so it should be a decimal. That's 6%. That is 6%. You can leave it like this for me. I'm good. Now, when you take the computer test, it may want you to convert that to a percentage. You would convert to a percentage by moving 2 spaces to the right. That's just a little nice to know. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to come in. Love you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.